Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are finally looking at the Variable Action Heroes One Piece DRACULE MIHAWK, which it took me forever to get. I know it was in my pile of loot for a while and I didn't ship. I'm sorry, I had a lot of stuff to review, but finally we get to look at this guy. He's a really cool character from One Piece, doesn't show up till about halfway through, so you may not be familiar with him if you started recently. I mean, he's kind of there a little bit earlier, but either way, cool figure, cool character, cool design. Did they execute well, though? That is the question, and that is the answer I'll be giving you by the end of this review. So let's get him off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, so this guy stands just about 20 centimeters to the top of his hat, which makes him just shy of 8 inches. So he's definitely got some size to him. This whole line of figures pretty tall, and he's okay. I mean, that's relatively well scaled, so that's fine. And he does look pretty good. They did a good job with the paintwork and sculpt work, generally speaking. You can see on his shirt, like down the sleeve, there's all kinds of detail work, so it's pretty nice. You can see he looks pretty good. The skin tone seemed to be all right. A little bit pale. I don't remember him standing out as being pale, so I'm not sure about that. Maybe it's post time skip. Maybe he's more pale after that. I'm not sure. But all in all, he looks pretty good. You can see I have the sword on his back already. That thing is just detailed like crazy, so that's nice. You can see all the embossed, I don't know what those are. Those squiggly lines, let's call them that. Very nicely painted, very nicely sculpted. Very pleased all around with the sword. It might be the best part of this figure. So let's look at the accessories before we get into it anymore. We do have the sword, which just looks fantastic. Very, very well detailed. Nice shading, nice paint, nice everything. We have an interchangeable head, or face, I guess I should say. So we have the one that looks straight ahead, and then we have the one that looks to the side. And the hat and the top of the hair can be swapped out, so you can have them going either way. It's completely up to you. If you want to count it, we have the necklace that's on his chest, although you can... I mean, it comes on the figure, but it is removable, so you can do that. And then we have the hand holding the necklace with the little knife coming out of the crucifix, so that's pretty cool. We have 2 gripping hands, we have 2 loose hands, and then we have 2 clasped finger hands, all in addition to the 2 fist hands that come on the figure. And that'll do it for the accessories. Not a huge amount, but probably enough, and considering how cool the sword is, I'm okay with it. So, now the question is, did they do a good job on the figure? And I have to say, he might be the worst one out of the bunch. It's pretty disappointing, I know. He will be able to be posed in some nice poses that'll look good, but technically speaking, he's not that well executed. Let's, for the sake of the review, take the hat off though. We'll actually just swap the whole head. In the package, he comes with the eyes that look off to the side and the hat on. I've just swapped them out already though, but that way they're not in the way. The hat's not in the way. So as far as the articulation goes, I'm not super pleased. A lot of it's not that functional. Some of it is though, so let's just go through it. We have a ball peg for the head, and it's only a single ball peg because this top piece is just some kind of block of plastic, which I've never seen anybody use before like that. So you only get the one peg, and then the neck is on a peg too, so you'll be able to pose it well enough. The collar might get in the way some, but I think you'll be okay. So despite the fact that it's just a single ball peg, it's good enough. I guess let's do the shoulders next. So it's kind of similar to some of the other figures in that we have the butterfly joint that this entire thing can move. All of that purple on the outside, or burgundy or wine or whatever color it is, that can move, and it doesn't stick through because the jacket is connected to the torso. So that's okay. So you get a butterfly out of it. Then you have this piece right here, that top piece, that can actually go tuck in a little bit, but it doesn't work very well. It doesn't actually have very much range of motion at all. So that's kind of a bummer. And then on top of that piece, you have the standard ball hinge, which gives you a little bit of a bicep swivel, and you have your hinge. So you can get the arm out pretty far. It doesn't work as well as Ace's though, so it's a bit of a bummer. I did notice his arm pops off pretty easily. Hopefully that's not an issue, and it's not like super loose or anything, it just kind of pops off. But you can see though, you get a ball peg in there, so it'll move around a little bit, and you shouldn't really have too much trouble posing the arms despite the lack of efficacy in the execution of that joint. Wow, those are some words for you. But it's not bad, it's just not great. For the elbows, we have a slightly new design, which I'm not thrilled about. You can swivel it a little bit, not a whole lot. Doesn't have a bunch of range, but it will rotate around a little bit, but it's a double jointed elbow, so in terms of bending range, it's fine. But the way that, excuse me, the way that has that little gap there, it's not the best. I'm not sure why they changed it. They were doing fine with the elbows, and now we have a different joint, and it doesn't quite look as good the way it kind of overlaps, and it's just kind of strange. It's not a big deal at all, but it's kind of strange. And then for the wrists, we have our ball hinges, so that's pretty much standard. You'll have decent range. I noticed though that the hinge itself is a much paler color than the rest of the skin tone, so it doesn't look great. It almost looks like a bootleg, and I know this isn't one, so it's a little strange. For the torso articulation, I really can't tell you what it has because I can't move it. None of it really moves because of how they have the top part of the jacket mixed with the lower part of the cape, or whatever you want to call it. It just doesn't really, all you're really going to do is rotate him around, both this lower part of the torso in here and the normal abdominal section. Those will move a little bit. You can lean them a little bit, but I can't really get anything else to do anything. So that's a total bummer. The cape is connected in a really weird way. Can you see in there? I don't think you can. There's a big long tube that goes all the way up to the top part of his torso that hangs down, and then it's a ball peg for the bottom part of the jacket, which doesn't really hold the jacket very well. It's just a really, really weird design. It's almost as bad as Law's design, and since you can't use the articulation because of it, it might be as bad as Law's design, so that's pretty terrible. Not good at all for the cape, and then because of that, not good at all for the torso. That's a problem. For the hips, luckily the hips have pretty good range. You can bring them all the way forward, no problem at all the way out to the side, no problem at all, and then they even go back a little bit. Now the problem is, if you look inside the hips, you can see the flesh from his upper body. That's not good. That should be at least painted so that it doesn't stand out, but it isn't, so that's kind of a problem. You can see though that there is a ball peg holding that all together. You just don't really get to use it very much, so it's a bummer. For the hips, you do get your thigh swivel right there, so that's pretty good. The knees have really good range, and they look pretty good. I'm very pleased with those knees. You can technically rotate that around too if you need to, a little bit, but you don't really need to, so that's fine. For the ankles, we have a double ball peg, maybe a single, I'm not sure, but you get good range out of them either way, so that's pretty good. Pretty far, excuse me, pretty far forward, not so far back, but you get an ankle rocker, and they move well enough, and you get a decent but not great toe hinge. I don't really like that, to be completely honest. You get good range, but it looks weird. So ultimately, oh, another thing, when you try to pose him, this leg, for me anyway, is really loose, and it'll just do the splits if you try to put him in an action pose. So there's not a whole lot about this guy that, honestly, that turned out very well. It mostly didn't work very well at all, other than the paint job's okay and the sculpt is okay, but he ends up looking kind of hunched over, the way they connected the jacket to the chest and the way the neck is seated. It just doesn't look great. And because of the way the jacket connects back here, you can't move the torso around really to get him to look right. He looks like he's hunched over almost always. So I don't know, guys. I'm pretty bummed out with this guy. So I gotta say, I don't really like it that much. I'm pretty bummed, and I think you guys probably will be too if you buy the figure. So I guess we're gonna call it there. Not a great figure, I have to say. Pretty disappointing. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.